blazing bright. We're caroling through the night, and this Christmas will be a very special Christmas for me.
Hello, and welcome back to the Great Ojibwe Baking Show. We're doing the 12 days of Marismas cookies, and this is the 4th day of Marismas. And we're going to be making a pecan snowball cookie today. It's a classic cookie. It's really easy. It's really delicious. And you need a lot of pecans, which is not the most inexpensive nut. So before we get started cooking, I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit about grocery shopping for your Marismas cookies, because if you've made it this far and you're planning on hanging in all 12 days, you might start to be like, oh man, I am spending so much money on ingredients for these Marismas cookies. So the first thing I'll tell you is that this show really should be sponsored by Aldi. It isn't. If anybody from the Aldi corporate office is watching, hit me up, because that's where I got 85% of my ingredients. So it's a great place to go for your ingredients. You can't get everything there, but like I said, you can get probably 85 to 90% of what you need for these cookies at Aldi. And while I was there, I bought a bag of mini guava fruits for $2, and I had never had a guava before, but man, that is a good fruit. They are delicious. So hit up Aldi. You can also get a lot of baking supplies there if you're relatively new to baking. And I took pictures for you guys. So here's some of the baking supplies, at least that you can get at the Aldi near me, which is in Chicago on Cermak. But yeah, hit it up. For the pecans for this recipe, I got them at Costco, which is also a great place to buy butter in bulk, by the way, if you're doing a lot of baking. But I just got a big old bag, a big old sack of nuts, if you will, from Costco. So pecans are great, but for this recipe, if you don't have pecans, you can also sub out walnuts, which is a slightly less expensive nut, or almonds, are really just whatever you have around. There's no wrong nut for this cookie. So to begin with, we have 2 sticks of butter softened to room temperature. To that, I'm gonna add a teaspoon of salt. And I use sea salt, but I always try to get iodized salt because it's a necessary nutrient. And before they started putting iodine in salt, people were getting chronically ill with, I don't know, I'm not a doctor, whatever fucking sickness you get from lack of iodine, like rickets or something, I don't fucking know. But anyway, iodine is important for your health, and so iodized salt is a major source of it. So if you do get like a fancier salt, make sure you're getting iodine in your diet. Anyway, 2 sticks of butter, teaspoon of salt, ½ cup of granulated sugar, and a teaspoon of vanilla extract. And we're gonna pop that in the stand mixer and mix it up until these are all creamed together. You can see my butter and sugar and vanilla extract and a little salt are all creamed together. Got the spatula at Aldi, by the way, serving me very well so far. And now you're gonna add 2 cups of all-purpose flour and a cup of chopped pecans. And I did these in my food processor. If you don't have a food processor, another way that you can do it is to put your pecans in like a zipper bag, and you can either roll over them really hard with a rolling pin or smack them repeatedly with a big spoon. And those are all other ways to pulverize your pecans if you don't have a food processor. Like I said before, you can sub other nuts if you don't have pecans. But anyway, throw that in there, pop it back on the mixer. Super easy. So here's our dough right off the mixer. When you start mixing it, at first you're gonna get little crumbles, but if you keep going, it'll form itself into a lump of dough, which is what you want, because that's how you know that all of the ingredients have really incorporated together. So we're gonna form these into about 1-inch balls. You can do yours a little bit bigger if you want a bigger cookie, but personally, in my opinion, if you're doing 12 days of cookies, it's nice to have a little bite, because that way you can have more than one kind of cookie at a time. Whereas, if you take a bite of like a giant cookie, then you're kind of committed. You gotta fucking finish what you started. Great. So we're gonna keep making these into 1-inch balls. And real quick, I know I've told you guys this before, but I do want to reiterate, the word is pecan, not pecan, as some people say. And I know that because pecan comes from the Ojibwe word bagan, which means nut. So pecan, correct. Bagan, I will also accept it. Pecan, please stop making the spirits of my ancestors cry. Cool, so we're gonna keep forming these into little 1-inch balls, put them about 2 inches apart on the baking sheet, and pop them in the oven at 325 for 17 to 20 minutes. Our cookies are out of the oven. You can see that they are just barely golden brown on top, and they have a nice golden bake on the bottom, brown but not so dark as to be burnt. So the next step to finish these off is that we're going to sprinkle them with powdered sugar. And if you sprinkle them with powdered sugar a long while before you serve them or eat them, the powdered sugar is just going to kind of absorb into the cookie. So that's not a bad thing, but if you have the time and the wherewithal, I recommend sugaring them as you're ready to serve them. So we're just doing a few for right now. And I'm just gonna put my sugar in my little colander and tap it with a spoon, and you can get a nice little powdering over every cookie. If you don't have a colander, another thing that you can do is you can just put powdered sugar in a plastic bag and shake it around, and that's super easy too. Let's see how we did. It's really good. Rich and buttery, not too sweet. This is a classic, and it's a really delicious Marismas cookie. I hope you make it. I hope you have a chance to try it at home. Check back with us tomorrow for the 5th day of Marismas cookies, and I'll see you then.
I see the run, Rudolph Santa's gotta make it to town. Santa made him Holly telling he could take the freeway.